Picture it, late winter, 1692. The village of Salem is cold, muddy, and miserable. The Puritans are doing what Puritans did best, feeling guilty about something, avoiding joy, and nervously checking in with God about everything from crop yields to sneezing too loudly. Salem was a small settlement then. About 500 people. A church, a tavern, a handful of thatched houses, and far more tension than a community that size really needed. Most of that tension, of course, came from land disputes, church politics, and the general stress of living in a place where wolves outnumbered doctors. You might think witchcraft accusations sprang from nowhere, that the townspeople just woke up one morning and thought, you know what would make this place more fun? Executions. But no, it simmered for years. Salem Village, not to be confused with nearby Salem Town, because apparently colonial naming creativity had limits, was already a community divided. The residents couldn't even agree on who should be their minister, which, for Puritans, was roughly equivalent to not agreeing on whether air was good for you. At the center of all this simmering unrest stood one Reverend Samuel Parris. Samuel Parris was not the type of man you'd describe as warm, or charming, or, honestly, tolerable. He was a failed businessman from Barbados who became a minister mostly because he ran out of other options. By 1692, he'd been preaching in Salem Village for about 3 years. His sermons had one main theme: everyone was terrible, and God was deeply disappointed. So you can imagine the mood in his household: grim, joyless, and full of simmering fear. Living with him were his wife, Elizabeth, his 9-year-old daughter, Betty, and his niece, 11-year-old Abigail Williams. There was also a household servant named Tituba, an enslaved woman from the Caribbean, who, depending on the source, was of African or indigenous descent. Now, as children do, Betty and Abigail got bored. Salem in the winter didn't offer much entertainment: no TikTok, no Netflix, not even a decent scandal beyond someone's fence being too close to someone else's turnip patch. So, they did what many bored Puritan children might do: they started pretending to tell fortunes. Little folk rituals. Harmless curiosity. Until, suddenly, they began to scream. Literally. The girls claimed to be bitten and pinched by invisible forces. They contorted, barked, spoke nonsense, and threw themselves into the fire, not metaphorically, actually into the fireplace. Which, understandably, got the neighbors' attention. The local doctor, William Griggs, came to examine them. He found no physical illness, which, in 17th century medicine, wasn't a high bar. This was a man who might have prescribed bloodletting for a stubbed toe. So, naturally, he diagnosed the girls as bewitched. Because when science fails, blame Satan. Reverend Parris, of course, took this as confirmation that evil had entered his home. And once a Puritan minister starts preaching about invisible evil, it's really only a matter of time before the entire village starts seeing it too. Before long, other girls in Salem began showing the same symptoms: strange fits, convulsions, animal noises, and the occasional dramatic fainting spell. It became contagious hysteria in real time. Someone had to be responsible. And the afflicted girls began naming names. Tituba, the enslaved servant, because, of course, the foreign woman of color was suspect number one. Sarah Good, a homeless beggar who muttered to herself. And Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman who didn't go to church often enough, practically a crime in Puritan eyes. Each of them, in one way or another, didn't fit neatly into the godly, patriarchal mold. The villagers loved that. Nothing brings people together quite like blaming marginalized women for everything that's gone wrong in your life. The 3 women were arrested and interrogated for days. Sarah Osborne maintained her innocence. Sarah Good shouted that she wasn't a witch, though she did have a habit of yelling at people's cows, which didn't help her case. But Tituba broke. Under pressure, and likely physical abuse, she confessed. She told a story about how she had seen the devil himself, how he came to her with a black book full of signatures, and that she had witnessed witches flying on sticks. Now, whether she said it in a way that was meant to mock them, or whether she was trying to end her own suffering, we'll never truly know. But the effect was electric. To the Puritans of Salem, her confession confirmed everything. Witches were real. And they were among them. Once the first accusations were made, the rest came easily. Accusing someone of witchcraft became trendy. It was a way to settle old grudges, get revenge, or simply deflect suspicion. A cow got sick. A baby died. Your bread went stale. Obviously witchcraft. And soon, the accused included respectable members of the community, even churchgoers, which really threw people off. By spring of 1692, dozens were imprisoned. The jails overflowed. Salem had turned into a bizarre theater of paranoia where spectral evidence, visions and dreams, were considered proof of guilt. If someone claimed they'd seen your ghost tormenting them in the night, congratulations. You were now a witch. You could deny it all you liked, but denial only made you look guiltier. And confessing didn't always help either, it simply confirmed what everyone wanted to believe. In May, a special court was set up, delightfully named the Court of Oyer and Terminer, meaning to hear and determine. Its judges were some of the most respected men in Massachusetts, including Deputy Governor Thomas Danforth and Chief Magistrate William Stoughton, who was about as cheerful as his name suggests. The first to face trial was Bridget Bishop, a woman with a reputation for wearing bright clothes and speaking her mind. That was basically all it took. She was found guilty and hanged on June 10, 1692. And that, as you might expect, set off a deadly pattern. Over the next several months, 19 people were executed, 14 women, 5 men, all by hanging. One man, Giles Corey, refused to enter a plea. In response, they pressed him to death under heavy stones. His last words were reportedly, "More weight," which, in the bleak world of 17th century New England, counted as top-tier defiance. Even 2 dogs were killed for suspicious behavior. Because nothing says rational justice like executing a Labrador. By autumn, though, something started to shift. The accusations had spread so far that even the governor's wife was named as a witch. And at that point, people began to think, maybe this had gotten a little out of hand. Reverend Increase Mather, father of the ever-dramatic Cotton Mather, finally declared that it were better that 10 suspected witches should escape than one innocent person be condemned. That might sound obvious now, but for 1692, it was basically revolutionary. Governor William Phips stepped in and shut down the court in October. The remaining trials were either dismissed or found not guilty. By May 1693, everyone still in prison was released. And then, silence. As if the entire village woke from a nightmare and couldn't quite remember what had happened. In the years that followed, the surviving accusers and judges publicly repented. Some of them even offered compensation to the families of the executed, though, of course, you can't exactly pay someone back for hanging their mother. Reverend Samuel Parris lost his position in Salem. Betty Parris grew up, married, and never spoke publicly about the trials again. Abigail Williams vanished from the records entirely, her last mention is from 1693. The village itself split from Salem town and renamed itself Danvers, probably because Welcome to Salem, home of the witch trials, didn't have great real estate potential. Historians have spent centuries trying to explain what happened in Salem. Was it religious mania? Social stress? Moldy rye bread causing hallucinations? All of those theories have been floated, some more plausible than others. At its core, though, the Salem witch trials were about fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of outsiders. Fear of losing control. When you live in a world where disease, famine, and war are daily realities, it's easier to believe in witches than to accept how fragile life really is. And once the idea of evil takes hold, it spreads faster than any infection. So, as you drift off tonight, remember Salem not just as a place of tragedy, but as a reminder of how easily a community can lose itself in fear. All it took were a few frightened children, a few prideful men, and a belief that they were absolutely right. History often whispers that certainty is the most dangerous kind of magic there is. Sleep well, my friends. And until next time, May your dreams be calm, your neighbors unaccusing, and your bread entirely free of witches.